Hi, Ogre here again, and in my previous video I made, I got quite a couple comments asking what was the dot tracker I was using that was displaying over the enemy unit frame, how I set it up. So in this video I'm gonna show what add-on I used and just the quick and dirty how to set it up real fast for dots. Particularly Affliction dots, but you can set this up for anything else once you really get to know the add-on. It doesn't take that long, but yeah. So, once you've downloaded the add-on, which I'll put in the video description, you're going to want to go in game and type /Raven. So there are a lot of tabs up here, and I do recommend you explore them, but for the sake of this video, we're going to primarily go into bar groups. Click new auto group, name it to debuffs. This will be the name. It can be named anything. This is just for organization's sake. And click OK. So the bar that you just made is actually in the center of the screen if I move this. Now you can move it to wherever you would like. I'm going to place it right above the enemy unit frame, how I usually like it. So still in bar groups, go into the debuffs tab over here. Click auto debuffs. So what just click auto debuffs. I'll explain what this does in a second. Your actions will want to be on your target, cast by player. You can ignore filter type, and now in this filter list, you're placing spells into this list that your add-on will, or that your bar group will track. So for this specific model, I'm going to use a whitelist. And what whitelist does is the spells that you put into this bank are the spells that it will track. If you have blacklist on, it won't track any of the spells that you put in the list. It'll track everything else though. So we're going to click whitelist because we only want to track our agony, siphon life, corruption, unstable affliction, and drain life if you want. I don't use Raven to track drain life, but if you want to, you can. So you're going to have to type the names of the spells in this list. Make sure you capitalize every single spell name, and it's spelled correctly. So for Hand of Gul'dan, it's Hand of Gul'dan. Unstable Affliction has 2 capitals. So just make sure you're spelling it right and you're capitalizing every single thing that needs to be capitalized. So I have Agony, Drain Life, Corruption, Siphon Life, and Unstable Affliction. So now that I've put them into this list, my bar group will start tracking them. This isn't quite yet how I like it, so I'm going to continue on how to make it look all nice and completely track your add-ons. But you'll notice when I switch to my target, or I have to create it. So when I switch to something like my soul effigy here, I'm not able to see my Raven tracker on other mobs. So I'm targeting my target dummy, but now if I switch to my soul effigy, it's seeing only the ones on my soul effigy. Target the target dummy, it's only ones on the target dummy. So in order to make it so you can see it on every single unit, you want to go up and you have to click all casts by players. So this will include all debuffs cast by the player on others. So now if I dot this and I dot this, it's tracking my soul effigy and my target training dummy. So going into the layout tab, this will make it much more easier to continue. Have 0 timers and unlimited duration, and click toggle test mode. So what this will do now is it will create just placeholder timers, so when you're configuring it and its appearance, you're able to see it without constantly having to refresh your dots to see what changes it's making. So all the rest is up to personal preference, but I'm going to show how I like it, because personally I don't like how this currently looks. So in the Layouts tab, you're not going to want to use the default format. I'm going to make the width of my bars the same length, or the same width as my enemy unit frame, because I like it like that. So you just need to play around a little bit to see if it's the right size. That looks here. Look, that looks about the right size. So I'm going to put this right here. Go back in the Layouts tab, and we were just here, so I increased the bar width. Now I'm going to increase the bar height so that the bars are taller. That's about good. And increase the icon size too. Let's see. I like getting it where it looks about right, about 23. 24 is what I want. So now we're on to text. I keep all the text how it is. So right now it's tracking the current stacks of your agony, and I think that's pretty beneficial. The only thing that I am going to do though is, if it's not in here, it's in the next one. Okay, so now we're going to want to go into the appearance tab, and this is where you do not want to use defaults. For the font, I'm going to use Quadrata. I think it's the most clear. I'm used to it too. I like 202 bold as well. They're pretty much the same. Actually, they look the same. So, there you go. They are the same. Okay, so I'm going to increase the font size to very visible, where it's I can easily see the name of the dots, maybe a little bit smaller than that. Make the opacity 1. If you decrease the opacity, it just makes it fader, and I like to see the actual name. So for the timer text, I do also like to make this Quadrata, and I like to make this very big, as big as I can get it. I'm at the point where I really don't use the actual timer, and I just need to look at the bar to get a feel of when I need to cast it. But I also like looking at the timer just in case if I need to plan out some things in the future, synchronizing my white movements with refreshing dots and stuff. So for the icon text, again, frizz, and I don't really increase the size on this. The only thing that this will be tracking is your agony, and that's something that you really don't need to track. I mean, it's good to know that you have 20 stacks of agony on your target, but it's not something that, you know, I guess it can be used for snapshotting things, so keep it there. I use a background panel, and I use a background panel because it's a lot easier to see the when a bar is expiring when it's against a black background. So the panel texture I choose is solid, or was it a solid or a? Doesn't matter if it's, yeah, solid. So I use a solid, and the panel color I choose is black. So now the bar is black. And so when a bar is expiring, it has a black background to go against. And I'll change a little bit about this so you're able to see the bar more clearly expiring. So for the border of this panel, I like to choose Blizzard Dialogue. I think it looks the most neat with the black border. And I just keep the rest how it is. You know, if you want to increase the edge size, you can decrease it if you want to. It glitched out if you do it too small. That's good. So what bar borders do is it creates borders around your bars. So if I go like this, there are many borders around my bar. I don't like to have borders around my bars. I think it looks more neat. So this is the bar foreground texture, which is the so this is the foreground here, the time that's still remaining, and the time expired is your background texture. I like to make the foreground texture, which is the time that's still remaining, minimalist. I don't like to do anything too fancy. I like the way minimalist looks. It's very clean and cut, and it's not anything. I mean, if you prefer something more like, you know, graphite to make it look more stylized, or pearl, you can, but I like minimalist. I think it looks pretty. So for the foreground, I keep it how it is. So I keep it how it is, but I turn its opacity way down, so that way it's a lot easier now to see the remaining on your bars. So it's really easy to, you know, it's a lot more clear now. So it's getting there, how it is on my main Warlock. Saturation, brightness, I don't really mess with that. Sorry. Alright, so, you're going to want to use default. And so going into timer options, this is where it's very important. Is it timer options, or am I going insane? Maybe it's general. Yes, it's general. So, in the general tab, not the timer options, there will be a tab here called sort order. So what sort order is it. And let's turn off the test that we did. Okay. And let's move this. And decrease the width as well, because no, it's too big. And that's fun. So, now if I put my dots on my targets, all Siphon Life, Corruption, and Agony, you'll notice that even though Corruption is expiring the soonest, it's in the middle. What I like to do is I like to make it so the one that's closest to expiring is always at the bottom. So instead of having A to Z and time left, I like doing duration. Oh, and time left, I'm sorry. So right now, it's showing that... Sorry, I mean just time left. So what time left does is it will display your dots with your time left. So for example, because Corruption is at the bottom, it's the one that's about to expire the soonest. And if I refresh it, it reaches the top now because it's going to expire at the not the soonest. So now we have it like that. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to now lock the anchor, and now if I place my soul effigy and I dot up my target dummy, it appears on my target dummy and it appears on my soul effigy. And now if I target my target dummy, it's still there. I have Unstable Affliction and Drain Life. Now it's really easy to see my dots on both targets without having to look at the tidy frames. Sorry for the awkwardness of this video. I've never really made a video before like this, so I hope it's not too hard to follow. I've spent a lot of time with Raven, so it's very easy for me, and I hope I didn't go too fast. But yeah, thanks.